how did you get involved in the project?
Well, many years ago, 9 years ago, when Kenny was released from prison, it was all over the news. They were on the Today Show, Good Morning, all the morning shows, 60 Minutes did a piece on them. They were on Oprah. My wife saw, I think, a piece on Dateline, and I'll never forget it. She started yelling at me across the house, saying, "Come in here, you have to see this story, it's incredible." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll give you that in a minute." And I walked into the room after the piece had finished, and she said, "This is an incredible story, you have to," and she told me, and she said, "Well, this would make a great movie." But what fascinated me about it, yes, there's sort of the woman triumphs over the system idea, and yeah, well, that's a great story for a movie, but what really stuck in my mind was I thought to myself, wait, she spent 18 years committed to the idea that this man was innocent. What if she was wrong? Like, what if she'd failed and had not gotten him out? Would that have made her struggle in vain, even if he'd been proven guilty? And in my heart, I said, no, that wasn't, it was irrelevant whether she got him out or not, or whether, in fact, he even was innocent. The relevant thing to me was the faith that she had in him and he in her, that obviously sustained him. That love, that bond was so extraordinary to me. I wanted to know what that was about.
I'm going to start by trying to get a BA after I finally take the stupid GED test, and after that, if I even get that far, and there's no guarantee I'll even get in, I'll apply to law school. But I mean, it's going to take a long time, Kenny, a really long time. And I mean, I might be 80 years old before I finally become a lawyer, and even then, I still don't know if I'm going to find the answers. But you just have to promise me. You just have to. That you won't ever try to kill yourself ever again. Because if you do, just don't.
Okay.
And I called my agents immediately and said, who is this woman and how do I get a hold of her? And a lot of people were fighting for her rights, and I couldn't get a hold of her. And a few months later, I got a call from one of my agents saying, there's this producer, Andrew Karsh, who's negotiating for the rights, and we had a conversation about you, and you guys should meet. So Andy and I met and really saw eye to eye on the story, and he was just closing a deal for her life rights. And we decided to team up and make the movie, and that was 2001. And we decided to hire Pamela Gray, who had written my first film, A Walk on the Moon, to do the screenplay. And Pam and I went up to Rhode Island, where Betty Ann lives, and met her and spent a lot of time and just started interviewing her and figuring out where the movie was in this big story.
So this was total, what, 9 years in the making?
9 years to today.
To today.
Literally, my first meeting on this was 9 years ago today.
Wow.
And we're screening the movie at the Toronto Film Festival
Wow.
today. But it was 8 years to get in front of the cameras.
I think that's something that people really don't understand, that it takes that long to get movies made.
Sometimes it
Very
does.
often.
It often does, yeah. You know, you just, movies are an act of will. They really are, and they're a miracle when they happen. It just takes time. It takes time to get them financed. It takes time to get the script right. You know, we had this movie greenlit at a different studio in 2004. And I'm so grateful that it came apart. I was devastated at the time. I literally put so much time into this, and I was so depressed about it. But I never gave up on it. But we weren't ready. The script wasn't ready, and it wasn't the right configuration. It wasn't its time. And as this came together, even though it was a monumental effort to get the financing together and to make it all happen, it now is its time. And I now look at the movie and I say, oh, that's why it took so long. Because now what's up on the screen, for better or for worse, whether people like it or don't like it, it is the film I set out to make. It's the story I set out to tell. So I'm grateful it took the time it did, because that was the thing. But it's a funny thing, staying committed to something. There are certain projects that you get involved with and they fall apart, and you say, okay, well, I'm going to move off and do something else. There are other things that you are so much embedded in your heart that you know you're going to do them. And this was one of those. I knew I was going to make this movie. I knew that the story worked. I knew that it was a story I had to tell, and I had a personal commitment to Betty Ann Waters to tell her story. And also to Barry Scheck and the Innocence Project. Although I'm not making a social statement here, it is, it's very important to me and to the work he does to shine a light on the extraordinary work of the Innocence Project and to the plight of people like Kenny Waters. But most of all, you know, it was this story just lodged in my heart, and I couldn't look Betty Ann in the eye and say I was moving on. I just couldn't do it. Kind of an interesting tale and an example of what it's like to make an independent movie. We had one of my partners, Andrew Sugarman, who really was the guy who put together the financing for it. We were in pre-production for this movie in the fall of 2008 when the financial markets collapsed. And SAG was threatening to go on strike. And the writer's strike had happened the previous year. And, you know, everything started to conspire against us, and our money started to fall apart. And we were in prep, spending lots of money. And suddenly the bank account would be short 1 week to the next. Like we were supposed to have $100,000 arrive, and 75 would show up. And Andrew, my producing partner, would juggle the money to try and do it. And, you know, a month before we started shooting, suddenly we were short again. The financiers couldn't get the money in the bank, and we missed payroll. And the payroll company told the unions, and the unions instructed our crew to walk off the film. And this was 2 weeks before we started shooting, or 3 weeks. And the financing was still not closed, and it was insane. And I'm, you know, on the phone all the time, screaming, yelling, trying to get the money in the bank, and I'm hearing different stories about why it's not. And Andrew is, you know, juggling balls, and we're trying to keep, you know, we had the crew in my office 2 weeks before we started shooting, and they're in tears because they feel so emotionally committed to this film. And we begged them. We said, give us 24 hours. You know, we're told the money's going to arrive, and, you know, it's all going to be fine. And, you know, give us 24 hours. And, you know, 24 hours went by and the money still didn't arrive. And, you know, I was called somebody and they said, no, it's there. And I had one really dark night, and I was called at 9 at night saying it's all fine. I come to work the next morning, and my first AD is standing at the top of the stairs and no one's there. And his face is ashen. And I said, Nick, what's up? He said, everyone's leaving, Tony. They're going to the airport. People are gone. I said, what? I was told last night that the money's in the bank. Well, the unions didn't get the message, and they told everyone to leave. They've instructed us we can't do it. So we had a crazy morning of, I literally just went in my office and laid on the floor. And Andrew, God bless him, Andrew Sugarman, said, we are not quitting. We are not letting this happen. And we went around to everyone's office, and he just said, what do you need to keep going? And they're like, well, I need $10,000 to buy this. He was like, here. He was handing out. And he galvanized the crew to hang in there for a couple more hours. And suddenly the money arrived, and we got the union off our backs, and it kept going. But this is what it's like. And this was, you know, literally, that was like a Wednesday. And on the weekend, the actors were all supposed to start arriving for rehearsals. And, you know, that's just what it takes. And then suddenly the financing closed, and we had our money, and we were off to the races. But you just don't give up. You just can't quit. You know, oh, I know why I was going to tell you the story, if you don't mind me babbling on like this. At the beginning of that week, when I'd heard that the money was late arriving yet again, I was told that everything was fine and it was fixed. And I was on that Monday going to be going to Rhode Island to introduce Hillary and Sam to Betty Ann and her family. And we met Sunday night in Rhode Island, Sam and Hillary and Betty Ann and I, and Monday morning we all go to Betty Ann's house, and her whole family's there, and they're all so excited meeting Hillary Swank, you know. And it's finally happening after 8 years, and Betty Ann's making breakfast for us, and they're interviewing, and we have tape, you know, recorders and cameras going, and they're doing their preparation, Sam and Hillary, and the Betty Ann and everyone's just celebrating, and Abra was there, and it's great. And I get a phone call that the money didn't show up. And I'm out in Betty Ann's driveway screaming at her financier saying, you know, you told me the money was there. What is going on? Where is it? And I feel my movie going down the drain. And in the next, you know, in the house, I have my two stars and Betty Ann. And we go through the whole day of doing research, and that night we had this big party at Aiden's pub with Aiden, you know, and that's in the movie. And Betty Ann is looking at me and she's crying and she's kissing me and saying, "Tony, I love you so much. Thank you. This is all because you hung in there and you had faith, and this is all because of you." And I know in the back of my head that from a practical level, the movie's going down the tubes. I knew in my heart that we were going to get it done. I was not going to call her up and say, "Betty Ann, I'm sorry. I couldn't break her heart again." You know, this is a woman whose heart's been broken a lot. And so we just went back and kept the train on the track somehow. But yeah, it's quite a saga.
This fall.
The A's don't like to admit they put an innocent